Call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Mr. Bailey?
Present.
Mr. Brown? Ms. Herbert? Here. Dr. Bustles? Here. Mr. Brennan?
Present.
And Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
Here.
Thank you.
Reverend McDowell, would you say a word?
Yes.
Let's bow our heads. You've afforded us good health, Creator God. You've allowed us to move about in our various situations. You've touched us in varied and sundry ways. The rain we are thankful for. Bless us and keep us. Touch us individually and yet collectively, and allow this body to feel and to sense your presence. Sensitize us to your will and to your way. We ask it and claim it in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Matter of personal privilege, please.
Yes.
You know, I was looking at some notes before this meeting, and our first meeting in June last year is when I took a matter of personal privilege to recognize the slaying of Julian Keel, the 16-year-old teenager who died at a high school graduation party. And that was a few days after the shooting that happened in Village of Lake Shores on May 28th that resulted in another 16-year-old being wounded. Out of that conversation, we discussed a youth curfew, and we discussed measures that could be put in place possibly to curb youth gun violence. And fasting forward to today, we are in the aftermath of another, unfortunately, tragic incident that resulted in a death and others being wounded who are teenagers as well. So I just wanted to take a matter of personal privilege first to recognize, 1 year later, first meeting of the month, that we're still working to calm those issues. And Chief Holbrook, I want to thank you and your officers who showed up in Elmwood Park last Friday in the early morning hours to investigate the incident, but also reassuring neighbors that y'all were there. I think your presence said a lot. And during my conversations with you, and I believe neighbors as well, you were extremely calm, and everybody, all other officers as well. So I think that went a long way. And secondly, I hope people, although short-term rentals and it happened there, I don't want us to get lost in the moment of there being a tragedy and loss of life and us wrestling with addressing youth gun violence. So please keep the family and friends of the slain in your thoughts and prayers, along with others who were injured or just even at that party with kids, because they have a long recovery, not only physically, but emotionally as well. And I also want to highlight the work that we're doing every day to try to address youth gun crime through our Office of Neighborhood Engagement and Safety. And I was talking to Dr. Fordham earlier today, and it's really tragic that this seems to happen every year when school gets out. And June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. And so I talked to Dr. Fordham about this. I would ask if you could just come to the podium and share some of the programming that we have this month to keep kids engaged, keep them focused, and giving them the tools so they don't result in violence, and we can reach them before they can reach for guns.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. Councilman Bailey, as you stated, June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. It's the month that is designated to really highlight an issue that plagues communities across the country daily. I will say from our standpoint, it is all about prevention. And as we talk about prevention, that really starts with the engagement piece, and that starts with us showing up, being visible, being present. As we talk about the events for Gun Violence Awareness Month, this specific month, there are several events that were planned and are scheduled for this month. The first one will be kicking off on June 20th, and that's the Cool It with Cola. It's a collaboration event with the Columbia Police Department, also the Fire Department and Parks and Recreation, where young folks can come out. They can engage with our first responders. There'll be demonstrations as far as the fire trucks. And they can get some ice cream as well, too. And it's not just an event for folks to come out and get ice cream, but there will also be some printed materials, and there will also be some lessons that'll be talking to young people about keeping your cool, particularly during the summertime. That's why it's called Cool It with Cola. Our staff's very creative and came up with that name, and I think it was a great name, but it really talks about keeping your cool, right? And the ways that that can happen. Another event that next day is really going to talk about internet safety. We know oftentimes when it comes to violent crimes, the internet or social media is usually the start and sometimes the end of a lot of those beefs or conflicts between our youth. So really highlighting the dangers of the internet, how it can be used in negative ways, but also talking about ways to keep young people safe. At this point, we have over 36 service providers that will be on site. And it'll be at the Drew Wellness Center. We also have 8 different engaging workshops, so we'll have 2 at various times. And those workshops will cover everything from internet safety to treatment or recovery, to talk about substance use, talk about vaping, to talk about some issues that young people face every day, anti-bullying, conflict resolution. Again, just a host of different topics over those 8 different sessions. And that'll be at Drew Wellness Center. That same day, we're partnering as far as we're hosting the Lock It, Live It, and that's a gun violence prevention fair and community day. That'll be at the Enzer Keenan House. Again, that's another collaboration event with the fire department, with the police department as well, and Parks and Recreation, other community partners, where we will have some presentations. We'll have some workshops to talk not only about firearms safety, but we're going to have a real talk conversation with young people. Some young people, they look at a lot of video games or play a lot of video games, watch TV, and don't realize or understand the impact of what happens when you hold that firearm in your hand and you pull the trigger. The consequences that come up after that are irreversible. So we're having conversations about that from some of their peers, along with some other national partners from Be Smart, Moms Demand Action, and others as well, too. There'll be free food, music there as well, performance. And then the big one that we're most proud of is we are actually launching a 6-week Power Up Peace Mode workshop series. That'll be going on in select neighborhoods, areas of opportunity or greatest opportunity is what we call. Some people say areas of highest violence, but we're working with community partners in our areas of greatest opportunity, being on site, working with youth and also parents. It's a 6-week series, so each week there's a different topic that we'll go over, and we'll work with not just young people, and we'll talk to them about some things in the beginning, then also at the last session. But that'll kick off on June 25th and extend until July 30th. And we have 3 sites that are available as well, too. So all of this information is available. I know our public relations team has sent it out. It's also available on the city's website as well, too. So these are just some of the things that are going on really over the next couple of weeks. There are other events that are planned in July and August, whether it's for teen summits, whether it's for parenting education, courses and support. There's a host of different things. But the key to that is this work is happening every single day. And as the office is coming up on 2 years of operation on June 26th, it's important to highlight that. So when we do see these tragic incidents, fortunately now we have some supports in place to where there is support, there's outreach that these families can be connected to. But those are some of the upcoming events for youth and also adults over the next few weeks to highlight National Gun Violence Awareness Month.
Well, thank you, Dr. Fordham, again, for the work that your department is doing. It's meaningful, and I know there's a lot of media here, and so I'm pretty sure, hopefully, they're going to spread the word about how we're trying to reach these kids every day. This was a tragic incident that did happen in short-term rental, but I don't want that to overshadow us trying to save lives, right? And I appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
And I just wanted to add too, for folks, we have our youth services guide, which is in the back. This is created for all the parents who have no idea what to do with their children during the summertime. So if you have some youth that may be interested or some parents, there are plenty of copies back there, and I think we have one online too. So the city's been concerned about summer activities for children for quite a while.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. At this time, Mayor and Council, we would ask for your adoption of the agenda, adding an item, another proclamation to presentations, Elevate Fatherhood Month proclamation, as requested by the Honorable Tyler D. Bailey. I will make that item 3A. And another amendment to item 41, which will now read, assuming the council meeting proceeds in this way, item 41 would be amended to read, council is asked to refer ordinance number 2025-054, establishing a moratorium on the issuance of new permits in areas zoned residential pursuant to Columbia's short-term rental ordinance, to be considered at during today's agenda, which is item number 32, at Columbia Code Section 5400 as amended, and the development of necessary legislation to the Community Development Committee as requested by the Honorable Tyler D. Bailey. Again, that is an amendment proposed for item 41 pursuant to your consideration of item 32. And also in that regard, Mr. Mayor and Council, I would recommend, being that the public input list is very long, that we would take up public input on items 32 and the amended item 41 as proposed pursuant to the consideration of item 32. I would recommend that the public input be held in conjunction with item 32. Yes, sir.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any changes? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert? Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. For public input regarding any other items on the agenda, individuals are allotted up to 3 minutes to address City Council. Items requiring a public hearing cannot be addressed at this time.
Mayor, I don't see any individuals signed up to speak on items on the agenda other than STRs and item 41. Yes, sir.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on, Madam.
Yes, sir. Approval of minutes, item number 1. Council is asked to approve the May 20th, 2025 budget workshop and regular meeting minutes.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, any changes, comments? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Moving into a period of presentations, our first item is a special recognition by Mrs. Elizabeth Taylor, the president of the Columbia Pickleball Club. Ms. Taylor?
It's our pickleball queen. They call her Madam President, but she is really the pickleball queen.
Yes, and we wanted to give you this plaque week before last when you played pickleball with us.
You mean after y'all beat me up and down the court?
We did let you win a couple of games.
Maybe a couple points. I don't remember it being a
But I
couple
said,
games.
you play as well as me, and I'm 80.
I don't know if I take that as a compliment or not.
I don't know how much of a compliment that is. But we thank you for coming and sharing the time with us. Though you were a little late, you said 5:30, but
I had to get y'all warmed up. Before I
yeah,
rolled
but
in there.
we had a good time, and we really enjoyed having you with us. And as a small token of our appreciation, I would like to present you with this plaque. I wanted to give it to you that night, but they say you just wanted to have fun. I said, all right, Cindy Lauper. And on the behalf of the Columbia Pickleball Club, I would like to give this plaque to you, if you would accept it, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Well,
our
first of
group,
all, before we do that, I think people should know this Columbia Pickleball Group has over 1,400 members in our city playing pickleball. Yeah. And it is growing like crazy. Everywhere I go is full, and they participated. There's a national program called Move with the Mayor, and they help us move and help me move all across the court. Yeah, young and old were beating me pretty strong. I got some practicing to do, but it was great to see all the people there and the people inside using the Drew Wellness Center, having an opportunity to play in our gymnasium there, not just our outdoor court. So it was really refreshing. It was a great variety of young and old there. It was a great
absolutely,
group.
it's intergenerational.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pickleball
It's
is
fun.
definitely intergenerational. We've had children as young as 6. I'm 80. So you can see the flow of the range of ages.
Well, y'all are doing a great job, and thank you for promoting.
And we thank you for coming. If I could have our group to come up. Okay.
Come on, pickleballers.
The plaque reads Honorable Mayor Daniel J. Rickerman in celebration of his movement challenge with pickleball for resident city of Columbia, May 2025. Presented by the Columbia Pickleball Club True Wellness Center.
Thank you. Thank y'all for being here. Thanks again.
Okay. I have a plaque for him too. Yes, we also have a plaque for Kenya Bryant, Director of Parks and Recreation. He has you been so he's been so instrumental in extending pickleball playing time, giving us a Saturday play day because we play on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4. And a lot of people that work can't make those hours. And so we wanted either some evening time or weekend. And he allowed us to have Saturday mornings, 8:15 to 10:15. And so he gave us promotional banners. He has been so helpful. So would you please give him this?
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you.
Moving along with another presentation, item 3 is National Home Ownership Month Proclamation. The Honorable Daniel J. Rickerman, Mayor, with remarks from Ms. Crystal Buckner, the City Lender Program participant, one of our City Lender Program participants.
Can we have her and our community development team come on up? Come on, team. Y'all are a team. That means everybody. And you even got Jeff up there.
How about that? Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. On behalf of Community Development and the Director, Felicia Kilgore, We thank you for this opportunity to celebrate Homeownership Month in Columbia. June marks National Homeownership Month, a time to recognize important home ownership and building strong, stable communities and advancing generational wealth for families. The Community Development Department remains steadfast in its commitment to expanding access to affordable and sustainable home ownership opportunities. Our staff has participated in numerous events to promote homeownership throughout the year, and so we're very excited to be here today to just celebrate. So during this fiscal year, our housing department has successfully closed out 18 home loans, and we're very proud of that. This includes affordable housing loans utilizing over 1.4 million in CDBG and home funds, and 11 City Lender 2 loans, which utilized over 400,000 in the general fund. So we are continuing to represent the families here who now have a home, greater stability, and a stronger future. So we look forward to you helping us continuing home ownership in Columbia. And with that said, we do have Ms. Crystal Buckner, who wants to provide some remarks about our program.
Buckner?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Crystal Buckner. I am a local City of Columbia resident. I was born and raised in the inner city, and I'm also a recipient of the City of Columbia Home Loan Program. I purchased my home when I was 25. I've been there 13 years now, but I just want to say that this program is amazing. I got my home, I thought like a lot of people, but they believe that, oh, I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna go. I stayed. It's affordable, and it is, like she said, and it's sustainable. This program is amazing, and not only am I a local city resident, but I'm also a local realtor. I eventually got into real estate, and so I've been pushing the City of Columbia Home Loan Program, especially because I do live in one of the gentrified neighborhoods. I live right in Celia Saxon. I live right across the street from the Oak Reed High Rise. I live right across the street from Allen Benedict Court, and like I said, I don't have any plans on moving because it is affordable. And I have been able to sustain, and I just want to say thank you to the City of Columbia for providing the program to the residents, and hopefully that we can keep it going. I'm introducing it to every client that I can who's interested, and the qualifications that they have are amazing, and just want to hope that we can keep it going because it has been amazing for me. I got it when I was fresh out of college, and I was in grad school at the time. My first job right out of college, I was only making about $13 an hour, but guess what? The City of Columbia program afforded me to be able to purchase a home instead of having to pay rent. So I think it's an amazing program. I'm going to push it to as many clients as I can, and I hope that the city can keep it going for as long as we can, because if we don't need anything, we need affordable housing. And I want to say thank you.
It's always great to hear from somebody who's been part of the program, and you can tell you're excited about it, you believe in it, but I also applaud you for making that step into home ownership, especially at 25, and building up your future wealth and equity with that, and having something for your future family. Thank you so much for being here. With that, I want to get into the National Homeownership Month and read this proclamation. Homeownership encourages personal responsibility, instills a sense of pride and accomplishment, generates economic growth that helps strengthen our city. Each year, National Homeownership Month is celebrated in the United States to encourage benefits of owning and maintaining a home. Because a home provides shelter and a safe place where families can prosper and children can thrive, home ownership is an important part of the American dream. Home ownership unites families, empowers communities, and strengthens local and national economies. Home ownership encourages personal responsibility, strong values, while creating more stable neighborhoods, civic-minded residents, better schools, less crime. The annual observance of National Homeownership Month provides an opportunity to work together to provide all families with the tools and information that they need to overcome barriers to homeownership. So therefore, I, Daniel J. Rickaman, the mayor of Columbia, along with my fellow members of Columbia City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2025 as National Home Ownership Month.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Item 3A, the Elevate Fatherhood Month Proclamation, the Honorable Tyler D. Bailey.
Well, apparently, our lawyer and fellow elected officials would like me to do this today.
Yes,
We want to
sir.
hear from the mayor. We want to hear from the man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Fathers represent the foundational, element of resilient families, providing love, guidance, support to their children. The significant influence of fathers on their children's development is profound, and they impart values, encourage personal growth, nurture resilience. The South Carolina Centers for Fathers and Families, established in 2002, has emerged as a pivotal source of support, equipping tens of thousands of fathers throughout the state with essential resources and knowledge to fulfill their responsibilities in fatherhood. The longstanding collaboration between the center and the South Carolina Department of Social Services, along with other state, local, and private entities, has facilitated the center's expansion into all 46 counties and enhancement of innovation programs designed to better serve a greater number of fathers. The center has successfully supported, developed, and broadened its Father 365 statewide network of regional fatherhood organizations that directly impact thousands of fathers and families each and every year. When fathers take an active role in leading and engaging with their children, these young individuals thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. The center continues to amplify a model of fatherhood initiatives on a national level. The initiative aims to celebrate the significant contribution of fathers to promote their active involvement in the lives of their children. Such involvement is essential for enhancing the well-being of young individuals, cultivating responsible citizens, and strengthening families and communities across their cities. The month of June presents an opportunity for all citizens of our city to celebrate and honor the essence of fatherhood, acknowledging the unwavering efforts of fathers in shaping the future of our community. So therefore, I, the mayor of Columbia, along with our fellow members of City Council, do proclaim the city's honors and recognitions on the month of June 25th throughout the city, encouraging all citizens in Columbia to express their gratitude for fathers in their lives as we elevate Fatherhood Month, which is also this Sunday for y'all who haven't bought gifts yet. And do we have anybody here to elevate? Please come to the podium. I'll take another.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Himes. I am with the South Carolina Center for Fathers and Families. The gentleman sitting next to me is Kareem Edwards, our president. And thank you to Councilman Bailey and all of you for acknowledging fatherhood. We know it is extremely vital to our community, to our state. It's very interesting that Councilman Bailey started talking about the gun violence, because one of the biggest predictors of delinquent behavior is father involvement. About 80% of men that are in prison often come from fatherless homes. And just one quick story, because the proclamation pretty much tells the story, but we were showing a documentary that we did of 3 of our young men at a prison. We went to Rock Hill Detention Center, And one of the young men, after we watched the documentary, goes to his cell, grabs a letter from his son, who also happens to be in prison. And he reads the letter to us and it says, Dad, we got to do better. We got to do this. We got to do that. So a perfect example of the power of a father not being there, and how it's so important for us to acknowledge fathers, to acknowledge the role that we play, and for fathers to do the best that they can. And we deal with all sorts of fathers at all different levels. So it's an honor for us to do the work as read in the proclamation. We've been doing this since 2002, and we plan to continue the work here. Here in Columbia, it's done through our local office, which is called Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. So it's an honor for us to do this, and thank you for acknowledging fatherhood for this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bailey. And happy early Father's Day to all of the fathers on City Council, all four of them.
Mr. Mayor, one last thing.
Now you want to talk.
Yeah, I forgot. Miss Hammond just celebrated a birthday. So happy birthday.
I made sure she had a great time yesterday, Mr. Bailey. She did, thank you. Okay, so turning the corner pretty sharply, we are going into the budget discussion, and with that, I will read for the record our budget public hearing to begin with a presentation. Our Assistant City Manager, Missy Kaufman, will come forward to take us through a PowerPoint along with me, and we're here to answer any questions you might have, of course. But we'll open a budget public hearing for ordinance first reading, item 4, ordinance number 2025-045, to raise revenue and adopt the budget for the City of Columbia, South Carolina for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2026.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and then we'll move forward with the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you, City Council. It's good to be here today, and it's great to have so many members of the public here with us. I know they're here and excited to hear about the budget and the public hearing, so I'm glad we could have this extra audience today. To that note, there are some budget materials available for the public, if so interested, available for you. So, since we are at the budget public hearing, we'll take a little bit of time and just talk some introductory comments with regards to the budget in terms of some background material. If I can make sure I'm sliding. Can you advance the slide? There it goes. Okay. So the city's budget is made up of several different operating funds, starting with the general fund, which is the primary fund of the city, which is used for our police, fire, public works, parks and recreation, and all of our primary operations of the city. Enterprise funds includes those business type activities, water and sewer, stormwater, parking. Special revenues are those items that have a designated use and purpose, as represented usually by state or local law. Those would include our hospitality tax, state accommodations, tourism development fee, liquor permit rebate, and then our capital improvement program which also represents those different funds, is the city's long-term investments in our infrastructure. The budget overall is a plan. It's a plan that is used to implement goals of city council and city manager and those expectations of applying those resources to that plan. Ultimately, the city must pass a balanced budget before the start of the fiscal year, and the city's fiscal year is July 1st. So that's why we are here today and doing that, taking that first action of first reading as well as public hearing. Collectively, the city covers a number of different services, as we mentioned. We like to call this the city by the numbers, that summarizes all of the different city services and activities, and looks at things by numbers to include our 40,000 citizens, leading towards as well our more than 150,000 water and sewer customers. And as of today, I realize that I referenced that we have 660 plus acres of parks and 55 tennis courts, but I think today I need to add pickleball courts to this material as well. So we'll make sure to make note of that for future reference. Collectively, the city's combined operating budget is $474 million. That includes all those different funds that, as just mentioned, general fund, water, sewer, stormwater, parking, and so forth. The largest of that total being, of course, our water and sewer operating budget of $217 million, and the general fund at $183 million. Every year as we start the budget, City Council strategic objectives are the foundation and primary focus of this budget and delivering this budget, but there are also drivers that impact this budget in terms of as it's being developed. And this year's specific drivers reference the redevelopment of Finley Park, which is slated to be opening later in the fall. We're glad to see bringing back resources available to this program and park, this important park, and bringing this asset back to our operations. Expansion of homeless services, which was really from several years ago, but this year, the operating cost of the expansion of the homeless services and the addition of rapid shelter is reflected in the general fund. Previously, it was funded with American Rescue Plan funds, so those activities are now reflected in the general fund. That does not include those activities funded from our community development block grant. Capital investment and debt service, this budget also, of course, was impacted by prior issuances of debt and moving of our long-term debt obligations. And then facility transitions, as the city is looking to consolidate different offices and functions. We're adjusting and moving into different facilities. So this budget does have some of those impacts, looking at a longer-term impact or longer-term benefits of those consolidations. And of course, this budget also continues to reinforce those strategic priorities of performance management and pay for performance. This is helping to recruit and retain our city's workforce. Public safety, recruitment and retention, which includes the police and fire step plan, as well as skill development and operational readiness activities. Sustaining our core services, and of course, balancing growth and fiscal responsibility is always our goal. The general fund, we will dive in a little deeper into the budget now. The general fund is proposed at $183 million. This is a decrease of 2.6% from the current year approved budget. It includes departmental operations of $161 million. That's an increase of about 3%. Transfers and non-departmental transfers out, which is $22 million. We'll talk a little bit more about what those include in a moment. That is a decrease of almost 19%. This budget is balanced without a proposed tax increase or any other rate increases in the general fund. I think we're coming on like year 16 of no tax increase. As mentioned, this budget does include modest departmental increases. However, it does not include all requests as received from our departments. It does defer some requests for service expansions or new items. In order to be able to balance the budget, we have to be able to prioritize those resources. In order to get there, this year, we did have to balance the budget with a couple of different actions. One was the reduction of our vehicle and capital replacement program. In the current year budget, we used $15 million of borrowed proceeds for our capital replacement. This proposed budget reflects $4 million. That, in part, was part of the reduction mentioned previously with regards to the reduction in transfers. The budget does not include any funding for general capital projects. That would be city facilities, primarily our parks, our city facilities. We often fund those activities from surplus. We're not at a point where we are funding those activities in the budget on a reoccurring basis as we would really like to be. Of course, we will reevaluate that. However, surplus funds are not as plentiful as they have been in the past. So we have to be careful in terms of what we are considering with regards to use of proceeds. Of course, as I already mentioned, we scaled back requested increases. When we start the budget, it starts at about a $20 million. Reduce it back in terms of bringing it into balance. This budget was also utilizing an additional use of fund balance. We typically program $3 million. This budget reflects $5 million. And we also used $750,000 from special revenue. These, again, are things that we are considering on a one-time balancing and hope to be able to restore most of these items in the coming fiscal year or following fiscal year. Just also to make note in terms of balancing this general fund budget, we had to manage the cost pressures that were leading to this development of this budget, and that was, of course, elimination of several one-time revenues. The American Rescue Plan funds, we have been able to utilize $2 to $2.5 million over the past 3 fiscal years. So this year was the current fiscal year that we're in right now, 24-25. That is the last year of those funds programmed for transfer. So that was $2.5 million. The addition of Finley Park operations is $2 million added to the budget. The prior year issuance of capital leases, as I mentioned, the current year reflected a $15 million borrowing. That was an increase from 9 to 15 million. So that debt service payment, of course, was a significant increase, as well as prior years. I already mentioned the expansion of homeless services and then public safety compensation. Those are just some of the things that the city has picked up in this coming budget that has helped to make this budget tight, as we've mentioned. Of course, our ongoing commitments that we sustain is our public safety complex, the lease and operations of $2 million, contracted security at 1.7, and then safety tech enhancements. Those are just reflected of the increases. On average, the city's general fund budget grows approximately about 4%, which is $4 to $6 million. This means that we rely also on uses of transfers to be able to help balance this budget. With that, we also wanted to make note that leading us today, late in the development of this budget, as we were developing the budget for final and to be able to advertise, as we all know, the state included a proviso that would restrict the city's use of or receiving the city of Columbia's share of the local government fund. That equates to about $3.7 million in the general fund. Of course, those funds help support our day-to-day operations, as we just described. Public safety, our infrastructure, park operations, waste collections, all of the day-to-day activities of the city's general fund. Because we were at where we were, because of the time that we were at that time of the proviso, in order to remain compliant, of course, and keeping with our notice requirements of advertising a balanced budget and a public hearing notice requirement, City Council charged the city manager with covering the local government fund shortfall, utilizing hospitality tax transfer increase to cover the $3.7 million that would have otherwise caused our budget to be in balance in order to prioritize core services and be able to review potential program impacts with the increase or in that transfer. The loss of the hospitality tax, of course, dollars we do not take lightly. We understand the impact that will have on our community and on our cultural programming, as well as economic development activities and our community events and our partnerships. The proposed budget does include difficult adjustments, deferring certain initiatives, as well as reducing support to community organizations.
Missy, I'll add at this point, because obviously those were the hard recommendations that I had to make to you all. Obviously, council is, aware of how we got there, and we'll talk about that more specifically in a few slides, but I'm just not willing to make recommendations that would address these core services that Missy's describing, and so the alternative, as we talked about in the last meeting, is to utilize a portion of the hospitality tax fund. So that's my recommendation. And not that council necessarily directed it, but I do think council understands it. And we'll talk more about how those cuts shape out in the hospitality tax fund shortly.
Thank you. The general fund revenues, just to cover a little bit more about the budget, the general fund revenues revenues and transfers in total $183.9 million. Again, as already mentioned, a decrease of about 2.6% from the current year budget. Of that $183 million, the revenue portion of that represents $157 million. Overall, it's a net increase of $2.2 million. Again, it does not include a property tax nor other rate adjustments. The other revenues, other agencies, specifically calling those out, that is where we would have received the local government fund reduction. You can see that it reflects $19.6 million in the current year and reduced to $16.7 in the following year. Transfers is a net reduction of $7 million, and that's a net because, as mentioned, the use of our capital proceeds is reduced from $15 million to $4 million in the next year. But then again, of course, we also have the increase in the some other reduction of one-time revenues, as mentioned, the American Rescue Plan funds. The budget does reflect an increase in the transfer from the hospitality tax from 4.8 to 8.5 million, and we have suggested proposed one-time use of $750,000 from Tourism Development Fund. Again, just graphically showing that the largest portion of the city's general fund revenues come from a combination of property taxes, licenses, and permits.
Mr. Mayor, question, Ms. Kaufman. So every 5 years, the county does a property reassessment exercise, and I think we all just went through that.
Yes.
What amount of additional funding does that bring to the city via our general fund? Do you know that number?
I don't have a number exactly right now. That would have been reflected in the prior year budget. So part of that, though, too, reflects, right? And so, of course, the millage that we do adjust keeps us at a whole. We did not adjust millage.
Thank you.
Right. Moving on to expenditures of the general fund. Of course, a balanced budget, so the total expenditures of departments as well as transfers and other uses is $183 million. Public safety remains the largest portion of the city's general fund at $85 million, $85.4 million. It's about 47% of the general fund. The other item of note is the use of debt service that is also programmed in here. You can see is reflected as an increase of 2.3. Moving on into special revenue, which includes our hospitality tax, state accommodations, local accommodations tax, or tourism development fund, and the liquor permit fee.
Ms. Kaufman, when you go over the HTAX funding, could you just make it clear that with the recommendation city manager has given for the 3.7 to be pulled from that, what is the remaining amount in that fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Will do. So the proposed budget for the hospitality tax is 16.6 million, almost 16.7. Of that proposed budget, 15.8 million is revenues collected from the hospitality tax, which is no change from the current year current year budget. It does include use of $848,000 in use of surplus or fund balance. We have not, that we are reflecting in this budget now. So as we were mentioned previously, the budget development, when we originally proposed the budget, City Council had moved forward, had given us okay to move forward with an increase of 5% to the Hospitality Tax Committee and the line item agencies. 5% increase on the current year budget. So that was the budget we had developed to start with. By the time we were able, through the adjustments made as a result of the state budget proviso and the impact on our local government fund, as we have made the additional transfer to the general fund, the recommendation is adjustments of roughly it nets to 16%, because with the 5% increase in the proposed budget, then scaling that back up to 20%, it nets to a 16% overall reduction in those two categories. So that's what's reflected on this chart here. The Hospitality Tax Committee in the current year is 3.7 million. That's in the adopted budget. Is initially proposed at 3.9, so that was a $200,000 5% increase. The revised allocation is 3.1, so that's a net reduction of 600,000 from the current year budget. Okay. From the line item agencies, 2.8 is the current year budget. Initially, it was proposed at a 5% to a $3 million allocation. The revised allocation is proposed at 2.4. Of course, we have made these as an across-the-board 20% to each of these categories. That final determination and allocation is still subject to City Council consideration. We are not obviously proposing any approval or the committee recommendations coming forward until we are ready to make that, council's ready to make those determinations. Any other questions about how the reductions are affected in this budget? And just for information as well, as we know, the hospitality tax budget doesn't include different categories of funding. We have a hospitality tax committee. Those, of course, are the recommendations that the committee makes to City Council upon receiving the grant applications and presentations. The line item agencies are those groups that have a historical or some type of fiduciary relationship with the city. City Council makes those determinations specifically. There are special project allocations that may be made by City Council or some other type of operational, and then, of course, transfers out, which would include our debt service on utilizing hospitality tax revenues, and, of course, the transfer to the general fund. Next, we have state accommodations. This also is a special revenue. This budget is proposed at $3.8 million. It does reflect an increase of 11% over the current year budget from the revenues received or collected. These revenues, of course, are come in by the state, and so based on, we receive them quarterly from state collections. This budget does reflect the use of $650,000 of fund balance, bringing a total proposed budget of $4.4 million. The allocations from this funding source are very specific by state law to include use of funds for tourism development, as well as for marketing and promotion for other tourism and cultural activities at a specific percent, and they are also to be determined by or they're made by recommendations of an accommodations tax committee. Again, we'll bring those forward when we bring all special revenue allocations. City Council had already agreed for an allocation to the committee of 2.7, so that's reflected in the budget. There was also use of $50,000 in fund balance for continuation of the city's tourism and advertisement and promotion. There's a reflection of 5% general purpose, as also prescribed by state law. We've also reflected debt service of $874,000, and then as proposed, a $600,000 allocation for a capital project for a public restroom in the Main Street corridor that's been discussed. Again, those are funded from the fund balance and were not affected by the Accommodations Tax Committee. And the committee has received that proposal as well and will review it in same consideration of other requests. Oh, there's the covers. But again, state law prescribes that 30% is for advertising and promotion of tourism and 65% is allocated for tourism-related expenditures. Tourism development fee, this budget is proposed at $5.2 million. There is two specific requests or proposed uses. One is debt service. That was the debt issued for the redevelopment of Finley Park. And then the reference to the one-time transfer to the general fund. This budget is also what is used to fund the convention center. That request is before City Council, will be made at a later date. So for now, those funds are preserved as a reserve for future allocation of 3.6. Liquor permit rebate is a much smaller of the special revenues, $426,000. The prescribed uses are not spelled out there. Usually these funds are to help you utilize capital repairs and capital improvements to the city's historic properties managed by Historic Columbia. Moving into our enterprise funds, water and sewer budget is $217 million. This budget is.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kaufman. I do have a question before we get to that, and I'm sorry to take you back to
No, go ahead.
hospitality. And the debt service was 2.5 million, and it's down to 2 million.
Yes.
What's the impact going to be on the overall? Does that impact the remaining debt?
On the hospitality tax?
Yes, sir.
My
Yes,
apologies,
ma'am.
I should have covered that. So that reduction in that debt service was that was a scheduled debt service. We didn't,
Okay.
yes, we of course we are obligated to pay that debt above anything else. So that reduction is from the fact that the schedule itself has a reduced payment.
Good answer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking. All right, moving on to water and sewer. 217 million is an increase of 15 million. Water sales makes up the majority of the revenues in the water and sewer fund of 132 million. Sewer sales at 75. It does reflect a 5% rate adjustment as previously discussed and passed by City Council. Of course, our revenue streams help support our annual capital improvement program as well as operating costs and our debt service. And of course, that debt is issued debt for impact of the water and sewer system. Department budgets total 123 million. That's a $6.4 million increase over the current year. Debt service is 56 million. Water and sewer, it does include the cash funded portion of our capital improvement program. That is 19 million. And then, of course, other items includes a indirect cost transfer to the general fund of 7.2 million and our internal service funds. 4.3, you can see that the largest user of the water and sewer operating budget is our utilities. Of course, that helps to fund our 2 water treatment plants, our wastewater plant, as well as the operations and maintenance of that system. And then debt service is the next largest, which helps to fund the capital improvement program for the water and sewer system. The proposed stormwater budget is 34.4 million. This is a significant increase in this fund in part because of a large use of fund balance that has been reserved for a very large capital improvement project that is planned in the coming fiscal year. So this budget is 34 million. That's an increase. That's almost double of an increase over current year operations. Primarily, of course, again, that's 20 million in revenues, 1.6 coming from increase in revenues. The majority of that budget increase is from use of fund balance. Expenditure-wise, the largest percentage of that use, again, is transferred to the capital improvement program, 60%. The operating budgets reflect 8.1 million. It's a decrease, and that's in part because of some capital that's not needed in the coming year, operating capital, vehicles, and so forth. Debt service is at 2.5, and the general fund indirect cost allocation of 623. The proposed budget for parking system is 13.3 million. That is an increase of 11%. Of course, that is 11% over the amended budget that was from the amendments that were made mid-year for the different rate, as a result of the rate study. And so this reflects the annualized, this budget now reflects the annualized revenues generated from our parking system as well as their adjusted rates. The largest portion of our revenues for the parking system comes from our parking decks and our parking lots. Next would be parking meters. Assumingly, though, it does not come primarily from violations, which only makes up 14%. I know many of us think that the majority of it comes from our parking tickets, but it does not.
Question concerning parking revenue of parkers who park in the new systems versus the old meters.
I don't know that we have that, but
Just, you probably know this from your common knowledge. I'm sure there's a fee that these, the new guys get, right? Whoever the providers are, what's the name of
what are the size of our new parking?
our parking meters, for example, outside the courthouse now, right over here? The street parking that's been
Yeah,
removed.
The new
Who's the vendor that we
T2 and
use?
the T2s or Cosmos, sir?
Yeah, so is there, when individual parks, do they collect a fee for us using their system, or is it subscription-based as a whole?
There's a fee but the infrastructure we had to purchase up front. But the ongoing use you're asking about?
Correct.
As like a percentage of the parking ticket, the
No,
rate?
so if somebody, for example, parks at a regular street meter, puts a quarter in there, will the city collect the entire quarter versus paying a fee if somebody parks in the T2?
Yeah,
Which will be
we collect,
employee.
and then we pay for servicing of that system.
There's a cost for enforcement.
When there's a cost there's a cost for that infrastructure. It's not collected out of the revenue is collected and then those costs are paid.
Okay.
You're asking like a percent, like, is there a service fee that the customer ends up paying for that, like you would pay a credit card and service?
Right, that's correct.
We can get that answer clarified.
Okay.
And of course, with Passport, there is as well.
Right.
So if they're doing it, off their phone versus using the infrastructure, the new infrastructure.
Right. So there's T2, Cosmo, and then there's also the
We can
Passport.
get you the exact percentage or amount.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into the last portion, which is our capital improvement program. The water and sewer capital improvement program is our largest, being at $93 million. That includes our drinking water improvements of $20 million, and wastewater is $72.4. Stormwater improvements is $19.6. As mentioned, it does include a significantly large project, or larger than normal years, and then parking improvements of $2.3. Our water projects, $20.6 million, water quality being the largest planned use of the improvement program, and then water plant improvements at 34%. The wastewater and capital improvement program includes a system rehab efforts of 49%, which is a 35, plan improvements of $35.5 million. And then we also have systems capacity of $19 million. There's, of course, more information in the materials regarding those different projects. This is just graphically showing where these different projects are. The stormwater program is, again, as mentioned, is 19.6 million with a specific large project of 15 million in the 5 Points area. So that concludes the budget public hearing. Our next action, today's action would include the budget public hearing and, of course, first reading. The second reading is scheduled for June 17th. And, of course, budget implementation begins on July 1st, the start of our fiscal year. Thank you very much.
July 15th, is that correct? Is that the date for July meeting?
For the committee,
If there is anything
If
to
there's-
recommend, yes, ma'am.
that's fine.
No,
It's
July,
up to you all.
June 15th, Sunday, or
Yeah,
Monday.
17th, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That, we have a motion on the table. Madam Clerk,
Second.
we've already done that.
If anybody wants to take it. Did you want to see for public input, Mr. Mayor?
Sure. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. I know everybody else is here for something else, even though I wish they were all here to talk about the budget. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak on this subject?
No one has signed up.
All right, well, you got another shot next week, Tuesday. That, Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I do want to say thank you to ACM Kaufman and her team. Obviously, it has not been the most comfortable position to be placed in this budget season, although we're pretty used to budgets for many, many years. This one's been interesting and had some significant challenges, but we appreciate council's guidance along the way. With that, Mr. Mayor and council, are you ready to take up your consent agenda items 5 through 27?
Yes, ma'am. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any changes, questions, concerns? Hearing none, seeing none.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just want to confirm, this is coming from our existing budget, all of these consent agenda items?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
With that, Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Item 28, moving into consideration of bids, contracts, and change orders. Council is asked to approve a new construction contract for project SS 7463, the Crane Creek 1 Basin Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Surveys and Gravity Sewer, as requested by Columbia Water on October 9th, 2024. Award to North American Pipeline Management, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $19,666,678.90, which includes contingency.
Motion to approve?
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 29, an ordinance for first reading. Ordinance number 2025-044, authorizing the conveyance of .24 acre, being a portion of the 2400 block of Gordon Street, formerly known as Stroyer Road, located between Barnville Road and Waverly Street in Richland County, to the Progressive Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, Inc.
Is there a motion? So moved. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 30, ordinance number 2025-046, authorizing conveyance of Track 45, the portion of Park Ridge Drive at Harbison Boulevard, Track 50, the portion of Woodcross Drive at Harbison Boulevard, Track 63, the portion of Fernandina Court at Fernandina Road, and Track 69, a portion of Harbison Way, and Track 105, a portion of city property identified as Lexington County, St. Andrews Water Tank Site, to relocate a portion of Stewart Road to the South Carolina Department of Transportation for road improvements.
Second.
This is the Carolina Roads Project for the Interstate 26 widening. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 31, ordinance number 2025-052, consenting to the inclusion of property in a multi-county industrial business park, Project Catalyst in Richland County.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, that project, of course, is significant and was endorsed by the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee on April 29th, 2025. It's my understanding it is also making its way through the Richland County Council process with, I think, a third reading maybe being considered today.
I think it's second
Today?
reading.
Or second reading today.
Second today?
Yes.
So we got one more reading to go.
Yes, sir.
Will that coincide with ours? Do you know?
Yes, sir.
Great. That's awesome. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 32, ordinance number 2025-054, establishing a moratorium on the issuance of new permits pursuant to Columbia's short-term rental ordinance at Columbia Code Section 5400 as amended.
Motion to approve.
Is there a motion? Second. We got a motion and a second. Now for discussion, we'll take public comment at this point.
Yes, sir.
All right, as we prepare to open the floor for public comment, we will remind all speakers that your time limit is 3 minutes. You will have a timer in front of you. You will get a beep when you have 30 seconds remaining. At that time, we just ask that you would begin to wrap up your comments. The first person up, it would be Mr. David Bergman.
Thank you, David Bergman. We're at 2300 Wayne Street. Thanks for letting me speak today. Thanks for council's time. Last Thursday's shooting in Elmwood Park on Lincoln Street was heartbreaking. One young person was killed, others seriously injured. And we know because it happened at a short-term rental, a lot of attention has been put on the industry. And I understand that. This is serious, and it's a moment that deserves a serious response. I want to speak today as a host from a place of partnership. Myself, along with many others here, are part of the host community in Columbia, and we live here, we work here, our kids go to school here, and we care deeply about these neighborhoods, just like everyone in this room. We want to be a part of the solution. If the facts point to short-term rentals as a factor in what happened, then that's something we need to face. But I think, as was noted earlier, many of us recognize that this goes deeper than just property type, that these were local Columbia high schoolers, some just 15 years old, who were out of school with access to guns, making the decision to solve a conflict with their peers with violence. That's not just a rental issue. It is a community, citywide issue that we've seen before. The reality is, we've worked together as a community before on this ordinance. When the city created the ordinance, it happened because the council here, the neighborhoods and hosts, we all sat down together and we found common ground. And we listened and compromised and moved forward from that. And so I know as a community, we can do that again. I'm just asking the council today to use the spotlight to explore the root causes that led to this tragedy. All of us as stakeholders, we have a chance to do something really meaningful here, and just asking us not to waste it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carol Wright.
Good afternoon, members
Afternoon.
of the council. My name is, and thank you for your thoughtful comments. I appreciate that, David. My name is Carol Wright, and I am a local Airbnb host with over 10 years of experience at this point in Cottontown and Earlwood. And I've hosted more than 2,000 bookings during this time without a single criminal incident. So I am here today concerned about the direction of the conversation taking following the recent Lincoln Street incident. And it is a serious situation and deserves very close scrutiny. And I do ask the council to consider that not be the basis for broad assumptions or hasty decisions about short-term rentals as a whole. Author and security expert Gavin DeBecker reminds us that while crime can feel mysterious, it rarely is. Most incidents are preceded by observable patterns or warning signs, and when we pay attention, we can prevent them. So I ask the council to take a measured approach, investigating the specifics of this incident, and consider including the experience of local hosts in that review. I have emailed these comments to the committee with my contact information. Should you have any further questions or want my help with my input or other local hosts and and offering our insight and how and why rare problems like this might happen and how to prevent them in the future. For many of us, SDRs have become an integral part of our livelihoods, not only supporting my family, but also to employees who rely on the income. And a sudden ban would hurt not only hosts, but many others in the community who benefit from the SDR economy in quieter, less visible ways. In conclusion, this isolated event is not a reflection of the entire SDR community, and most hosts take safety and neighborhood impacts seriously. We want to be part of a solution that balances public safety with economic opportunity. And thank you for your time and for considering a thoughtful and fact-based approach.
Thank you.
Brad Swenson.
Brad Swenson, 7716 Laytner Road. I'm also a local host, property manager over 20-plus short-term rentals, and I respectfully stand before you to voice my concern about any proposals to severely restrict short-term rentals as a way to reduce gun violence in Columbia. We all agree that public safety and protecting our youth is essential, but banning STRs is a misguided response that confuses correlation with causation. We'll hear many pleas today that are rooted in fear and personal agendas, but let's be clear, gun violence is not caused by a type of lease a property has. To date, there's no empirical evidence linking short-term rentals to the rise in gun violence, not in Columbia, Richland County, South Carolina, or nationally. In fact, local law enforcement data shows that the majority of gun incidents occur in long-term rental complexes and high-density housing areas. Just 9 days ago, the tragic shooting death at Red Point Columbia Student Housing also occurred. That property wasn't a short-term rental, nor were the Rowan or the Colony or other recent gun deaths. If we're banning short-term rentals to stop gun crime, then by that logic, we should also be banning or placing moratoriums on apartment complexes, student housing, and even owner-occupied homes. That's clearly not the answer. So in conclusion, banning STRs won't make Columbia safer. It will only reduce housing flexibility, harm the local economy, and distract from the real causes of violence: poverty, access to illegal firearms, and lack of youth engagement. I urge the council to pursue data-informed solutions and common sense regulation, not blanket bans. Thank you.
Rick Harmon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Rick Harmon, and I have lived for 27 years on Lincoln Street in Elmwood Park, just 2 blocks away from the incident that occurred last Friday morning. I love this neighborhood because of its rich history and neighbors who share, among other things, common values of preservation, community engagement, and tolerance. We are proud of our neighborhood's heritage and love sharing it with others. We graciously host hundreds of kids on Halloween and regularly engage in community building events. We are good citizens of the city, and we deserve your attention and your care. Living in a city center community comes with challenges, many of which we accept and try to manage cooperatively with the city, handle respectfully on our own, or simply tolerate. However, for some time, our patience has been tested through the popularity and growth of short-term rental properties in our neighborhood. The murder and injuries last Friday mark a profound difference by comparison with the routine discourtesies of blocked driveways, noise, and litter that we have tolerated and tried to reasonably manage. Nevertheless, both underscore the common fact that short-term rentals are incompatible in residential areas where their tenants have no interest, investment, or engagement in our community. The city's existing ordinance that imposes and measures regulatory standards for these properties is wholly insufficient. Such measures are effective only to the extent of compliance and enforcement. While they may serve as deterrents, they rely on addressing violations after the fact, but are inherently ineffective in preventing violations and consequences before they occur. I chose to speak to you today principally to address concern with comments quoted in the news media following Friday's incident. From those comments, I sense that there may be a lack of conviction on the part of council and other centers of influence to properly address the problem, leading to vacillation, further study, and attempts to reconcile residential with commercial interests. I submit that no amount of foregone tourism, business investment, or economic development elevates itself to the threat of a 5-year-old child subjected to a situation just a few steps away where 30 shots were fired from firearms that included an assault weapon. Moratorium, while welcome at this point, is not the permanent solution, nor is further regulation. Council should move swiftly to take the action it should have taken some time ago by enacting an ordinance that prohibits short-term rentals in residential areas. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to be heard.
We have Justin on Park Street, and if you would, please state your name for the record.
Hey, good afternoon, council members, mayor, good to see you again. I'm Justin Barstow, I reside on 2225 Rembert Street, and I want to be here today to express my support for the moratorium. And I also want to ask that the city council and the city in general does more to actually enforce the ordinances that are already on file regarding short-term rentals. I want to give a couple of examples of some of the issues that we're dealing with on Rembert Street. We have a short-term rental right next to my address, 2221, that's actually advertised as a 22-person occupancy, which that in itself is against the ordinance for a 4-bedroom property. Some of the issues that we're seeing on our block may seem trivial with what happened on Lincoln Street last week, but I do want to talk about some examples of some of the things that are ongoing. A big thing for us is parking congestion. We have issues weekly, daily sometimes, where streets are completely blocked. As I left here today, I was unable to go down one side of Rembert. I had to go all the way around the block because one of the guests had parked across the street. So stuff like that happens every week for us at the issue that we have next to us. Noise disturbances are a big issue for us with occupancy of 22 being advertised that way. There's a lot of large gatherings, parties that go really late into the evening. So that's been a continual issue for us. And then there's a lot of trash overflow that results from that. So we often, our neighbors and I will clean up trash out of the front yard of the short-term rental because they'll just leave bags out and animals will get into it and get that strewn all over the lawn. So just things like that are things that we're dealing with. So for me, I'm asking for more enforcement of the ordinance that's on file. I think that would make a big difference for us. I also think a moratorium is a great idea because it would give some time to kind of maybe lower the temperature a little bit and wrap our arms around what's going on in the city on how many short-term rentals. Within, just from my line of sight, from my house, there's 3 that I can see just from my porch. So there's a lot going on in Elmwood Park, and I know that's the case for a lot of our neighbors in some of the other neighborhoods. So appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Brookshire.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Kathy Brookshire. I live at 2200 Lincoln Street. There is an Airbnb next door to my house. Renters have parked in our driveway. This Airbnb has no driveway. They've used our garbage bins, and at one point, their manager trespassed on our property to cut down the hedge we had planted to separate the yards, using our electricity to do it. In August 2022, the house was abandoned. We and another neighbor have to call the city throughout the summer to mow their yard. The house needs painting, the siding extensive repair as windowsills are rotten and visibly sagging, and there are gaping holes into the crawl space. Vermin routinely go in and out of the holes. We have had to pay hundreds of dollars for pest control because these animals get in there, die, and their fleas come into our backyard. We have tried repeatedly to get the owner to attend to these issues with no response. Many Airbnb owners will tell you that they fix up derelict properties and help neighborhoods look better, but that is certainly not the case for us. And now we have a murder in one of the many Airbnbs in our neighborhood. Who called the police? Not the renters of the Airbnb across the street, or the renters of the Airbnb next door. It was a homeowner who called, someone who knows the neighborhood and knows when something is wrong and cares about where they live. Why are we allowing more and more Airbnbs into our neighborhoods when the city is not capable of enforcing the rules and laws that are in place now? At the very least, I urge the council to place a moratorium on new Airbnbs until the many problems associated with them are resolved. I urge you to protect our historic neighborhoods and the people who live, play, and work there. Thank you for your attention and consideration of this matter.
Thank you.
Yvonne Twilly.
Good evening, council members. My name is Evan Twilly, and I live in Elmwood Park. I stand before you today not as a resident simply annoyed by short-term rentals, but as a USC graduate, a mom and a wife, and a former Elmwood Park board member whose life was changed forever by the actions of individuals who were selfish, negligent, and dangerous. My home, where my husband and son and I have celebrated birthdays and many countless memories for over a decade, stands less than 14 feet from a property turned short-term rental that was the backdrop of a mass shooting and a murder. At 5:08 a.m. on June 6th, my dog frantically barked to wake my husband and I up from a dead sleep. I rushed to my front door to witness a man running towards and getting into a getaway car. Shortly after, I was met with screams of anguish and horror coming from inside the short-term rental directly next door to us. Seeing a bullet hole in the second-story window, I knew that this was far more than a typical late-night party disturbance. What unfolded that morning was nothing short of terrifying. What should have been a typical Elmwood Park day with neighbors making their coffee and walking their dogs down our beautiful tree-lined streets, instead was a day that was started with gunshots and a murder brought into our neighborhood by outsiders with little regard to safety and those around them. What was most disturbing was having to keep my 6-year-old son from learning of the events, and later my husband having to witness the body of the victim being carried down the rental stairs, wrapped in a body bag with blood pooling atop each step. If that wasn't enough, we watched as the fire department poured bleach on the stairs to wash the blood away. I understand the allure of short-term rentals. As a former short-term rental owner and current co-host, I see the financial opportunity. But over the last 5 years, our quiet neighborhood has seen a proliferation of short-term rentals with approximately 20 in our neighborhood limits and at one time 3 on my block alone. While I believe short-term rentals serve a purpose, their unchecked and poorly governed rise has come at a cost: safety. Whether buying a home or traveling, you and your family's safety is first and foremost. This fundamental need is shattered when residential homes in quiet communities are turned into profit centers without proper oversight, and anyone and everyone is literally given the keys to your safe surroundings. When you allow short-term rentals and family homes to coexist side by side, the choice for safety is stripped from the residents and put into the hands of money-grabbing hosts and loosely regulated industry. On Friday, my safety was 100% shattered. Short-term rental owners and managers are claiming that restrictions will impact their livelihood. While a restriction could have an impact, making changes to short-term rental policies to increase safety won't put these investors in bankruptcy. Our city housing shortage will ensure them a very profitable business, albeit less lucrative, in mid or long-term industries. Do I believe what happened less than 14 feet from my home is an outlier? Yes, but I also believe two other things. Had the wonderful long-term renters who had lived next to me for 5 years still been in that house, this event likely would not have occurred. Had that house not been constructed of hard block, but of wood, like most homes in our neighborhood, my family or I would likely be picking bullets off of our floor, or worse, someone in my family would be seriously injured or dead. Council members, I ask you, are you willing to jeopardize the safety of your own families, friends, and neighbors to allow property owners to prioritize making a buck over the community? Are you willing to allow a group of young people with automatic rifles to gather in the home right next door to you? Is your house strong enough to repel bullets coming from guests who are inadequately vetted and have no regard for your family? Thank you.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we certainly sympathize with Mrs. Twilley and others, but we would have to ask respectfully for no applause so that we can get through each individual's heartfelt remarks without applause, please.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Next, we have Jamie Schertz.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. I want to take a few minutes to talk about the assets that short-term rentals have for our community. While it often is debated whether short-term rentals like Airbnbs have created meaningful, positive changes in our area, and for this reason, that are both practical and deeply personal to myself. First and foremost, Airbnbs have made travel easier and more comfortable for families. Unlike hotels, which can be expensive and impersonal, Airbnbs offer families spaces to relax, cook meals together, and truly feel at home. Whether it is a family reunion or a quick visit, guests can stay together under one roof without a hassle or cost of booking multiple hotel rooms. Airbnbs have also become an essential option for people who are traveling with medical treatment. For patients that are loved ones, especially those undergoing long-term care, comfort and peace in mind are everything. A home-like setting can make a huge difference during stressful times. Staying in a quiet, private Airbnb instead of a hotel allows family to focus on healing and not logistics. Then there are parents coming for their children graduating college. They don't need luxury. They want a safe, nearby place to stay and cook meals and spend time with their sons and daughters who are feeling like strangers in hotel lobbies. Airbnbs offer that and so much more. Let's not forget about the families of Fort Jackson graduates. These are proud families who travel from across the country to celebrate significant moments in their loved ones' lives. Airbnbs give them space to gather, host, and honor the achievement in more personable and affordable ways than hotels cannot afford. But the impact doesn't stop at guests. It reaches deep into our local economy. Airbnbs help employ hundreds of people, from administrative teams to housekeepers, from maintenance crews to lawn care specialists. These are real local jobs that pay bills, support families, and help keep our community thriving. In the end, Airbnb is more than just a place to stay. It's a platform that brings people together for care, for celebration, and for connection. It supports local workers, fuels the economy, and offers something hotels can't always provide, a true sense of home. So when we talk about short-term rentals, let's remember the real stories behind the front doors. Stories of family, health, and hard work and pride. Stories that show us the valuable of Airbnbs have on our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Robbie Burney.
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating your name? I didn't hear it.
Yes,
Thank you.
Robbie Burney.
Thank you, Robbie.
Happy to. I'm at 2309 Clark Street in Elmwood Park. I've been a resident there for 9 years. Thank you for the time to come speak to you all, Mayor, council members. It's great to hear from you all today and learn something that it's both Gun Violence Awareness Month and National Home Ownership Month, two things that are directly impacted by STRs. The mayor's proclamation is especially poignant as it stands in direct odds of what STRs bring to our communities. Additionally, I'd like to thank Chief Holbrook and CPD for their rapid response on Friday for this senseless act of violence that took place in Elmwood Park. Our neighborhood has fostered a proactive and strong relationship with CPD, and we continue to appreciate their hard work. STRs are not a new issue to Columbia and our neighborhoods. We've consistently and persistently carried this issue to protect ourselves and accurately reflect the dedication and pride neighbors take to build community. Short-term rentals don't add value to our neighborhoods. They introduce unwanted and unneeded problems. The unchecked proliferation of these locations is really the issue. We must protect the fabric of our residential areas from being overrun by these types of properties. They erode the social fabric of our communities, exacerbate a tight housing market, and do nothing to deter violence or crime in how they are governed, and certainly how you all have enforced the ordinance that's in place. My ask is to issue the moratorium on new short-term rental permits, actually enforce and uphold the current ordinance, and partner with neighborhoods to address this long-term through broad reforms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vance Sullivan.
Mayor, council members, my name is Vance Sullivan. I live at 2211 Park Street. I was born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina. My parents are both Carolina grads. I've lived in Earlwood, and I now live in Elmwood Park. After last Friday's events, I sat on my front porch and began to wonder, why do we have incentives to preserve our neighborhoods, especially the historic ones, but none to protect them from the unknown? The unknown of who may be sleeping 50 feet away, or the unknown of what may happen at 5 a.m. No amount of money from business licenses, registration fees can restore a sense of safety in our neighborhoods. But knowing who our neighbors are for the next 30 days can. I urge you each to do what we can't do. Our neighborhood was established 115 years ago. And unfortunately, the HOA was not. Had it been, I'm sure most of us would not be here today. I urge you to do what we can. Protect us, protect our families, and protect our sense of safety. Please move forward in favor of this moratorium and further restrictions on STRs so we can sleep without fear. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, we have John Wilkinson.
Mayor Rickman, members of council, Ms. Wilson. My name is John Wilkinson. I'm the president of the Elmwood Park Neighborhood Association. On behalf of our neighborhood, we offer our condolences to the family of Jaden Brackens, and we pray for full recoveries for the other 3 victims. What a terrible tragedy. One that should not have happened at all, and one that should certainly not have happened at a hotel operating in the middle of any residential neighborhood. We commend Chief Holbrook and the entire Columbia Police Department for their heroic response to a war zone that broke out early Friday morning. Our neighborhood has built a strong partnership with our police department, which comes to bear in times of crisis. Guess who has not been a part of that partnership? The very people bringing strangers and uncertainty into our neighborhood every single day. There are good reasons that the Unified Development Ordinance explicitly prohibited stays of less than 30 days in residential zones. And STR operators simply disregarded the law until council passed the STR ordinance. It seems that a substitution for good public policy, we dump our problems on a police force that is already stretched thin. Our officers work incredibly hard to keep us safe. And now this STR ordinance requires them in code enforcement to act as de facto hotel security in our neighborhoods. The enforcement framework around these neighborhood hotels seems nearly unenforceable in practice. We have no idea how many are actually in our neighborhoods, which is curious. I have been the president of our neighborhood association since 2021. Not a single non-owner occupied STR operator has notified our neighborhood association about the existence or location of a single STR in our neighborhood, nor provided contact information, as is explicitly required in the STR ordinance. We are reporting this to City Council and City staff right now. Every single one of them should immediately be issued 1 point for this violation alone, as is required in this ordinance. We can start with that today. Our neighborhood association is begging council to pass this moratorium swiftly, and then let's work just as quickly towards reforming this in a meaningful way. Our residents contribute massively more to our economy, to our community, and to our security, and they deserve better than this. We know a lot of that is asked of this council, and we thank you for your commitment to the residents of Columbia who are trying to build their lives here. Thank you.
Erica Blank.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time here. What was the last name?
Blanc, B-L-A-N-C-K, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trying to keep track.
It's okay. People say blank too, that works. Good evening, council members and mayor. I am Dr. Erica Blanc, and I'm a proud homeowner in Elmwood Park on 2404 Park Street. Thank you, council, for hearing us today, and thank you, Chief Jenkins and Chief Holbrook, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for you and your team. You and your team mean a lot to us in our neighborhood, and the community engagement that we have with you goes without words. A block from my home, someone's child, young Jaden, was shot and killed. A neighbor, a good friend, Eben, bravely stepped outside her house to discover the mass shooting. That bullet could have struck any one of us, any one of you. Eben's son, while he slept, Mason across the street, Christine as she was walking her dog that morning. You, Councilman Bailey, walking down the street with your dog. Councilwoman Bustles in your yard playing with your little one. Councilwoman Herbert as you drive to our neighborhood meetings. Yeah, we need gun reform. And yes, Airbnb needs to hold their own selves responsible and adopt safer policies. But you, council, tonight, you have the power to act, and thank you. When I moved to Columbia in 2001, that man right there, Rick Harmon, and his partner invited me into their home as a grad student. And I told him, I'm gonna move to Elmwood Park one day. That was my dream, and I did. In 2018, we bought our house. That dream didn't come with living in a hotel. I did not choose to live in a hotel or a hotel district. I chose a neighborhood with a front porch community where kids ride bikes, people walk their dogs, where neighbors know each other. But the people who own and operate many of these short-term rentals, they aren't our neighbors and they are not neighborly. They don't know us, they don't know our names, they are not engaged with us, they do not show up. They profit while we bear the risk of chaos, crime, and now of murder. Council, as your constituent, it is my duty to say current policies are not working. Beyond approving this much-needed moratorium on new short-term rental permits, we urge you to move swiftly toward comprehensive and permanent policy change. We not only need, but deserve better. As other cities have done, and done so effectively, ban short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. This is the only way to truly protect the integrity and safety within our community. But if we are unwilling to do or take that necessary step right now, at the very least, please adopt basic safeguards outlined in the email that I sent you all earlier today. Let's be very clear. If no action is taken, and when this happens again, the responsibility will fall squarely on this council. Let's work together to make these changes before another family is shattered. Thank you.
Paul Medding.
Thank you, council members and Mayor Rickerman. I too am a resident of the neighborhood of Elmwood Park. My neighbor Justin Barstow, who spoke a little while ago, lives 2 doors down from me. And sandwiched in between our house is a 2-story Airbnb that was built for the sole purpose of being rented out. I echo everything that Justin told you earlier. You know, this particular house has 4 bedrooms. When it was originally built and offered for rent, it was listed as being available for 22 adults to sleep in. And when I brought to their attention that they were in violation of the ordinance regarding how many people could actually rent that place, they actually changed it. They changed it down to 11. Well, guess what? I just found out last week it's being offered again for 22 people. I didn't come here today with a prepared speech. I came here today to ask why. I know Justin has made several complaints about this place. I have made several complaints about this place. In the 5 years that I've been living there, it's actually only been in operation for a little over 2 years. And not one of my complaints to code violation has been answered. Not one. And what I learned last week after the tragic events over on Lincoln Street is that of all of the short-term rental units in our neighborhood that are operating, it appears that not a single one has had a violation issued against it. Now, how could that be? How could that be when our neighbors, when I and my fellow neighbors are making complaints about this place? How can not one of them have a violation issued against them? So I ask, why? Why aren't these places being policed? That seems to be the biggest problem. They are not, they are running willy-nilly and they are operating on their own without any oversight at all. And that needs to be changed, despite just a moratorium on more being issued permits. Enforcement of the ordinance against these short-term rentals needs to be enforced immediately. Immediately. Thank you.
Dave Barbeau.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council people, thank you so much for your time. I'm a 22-year resident of Elmwood Park, a former member of the board of the Elmwood Park Neighborhood Association, and my son's a former student at Logan Elementary, just 4 blocks away from the tragedy of last week.
Can you say your name again? I'm sorry. Can you say your name?
David Barbeau.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm in support of the moratorium and, of course, better enforcement of existing STR ordinances. Although I not live near any STRs, I have had several challenges over the 22 years that I've lived on Bryan Street from neighbors in medium-term rental situations, and never from long-term renters or from homeowners. I fear that short-term rental guests are even less concerned and invested in our neighborhood than medium-term renters, as the recent tragedy reflects. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the irony of today's proclamation in support of National Home Ownership Month. At least 30 homes, or 10% of Elmwood Park, is ineligible for new homeowners because they are short-term rentals. Thanks for your time.
Candy Wright.
It's hard to stand up here to say what I wrote that I was going to say, coming behind all of you. I'm so sorry about what happened in your neighborhood. My husband and I live in historic Melrose. We raised our family in downtown Columbia. Our children attended Brockman and Creighton and AC Flora and the University of South Carolina. We also own 3 short-term rentals in downtown Columbia. 2 of them were condemned buildings that were just adjacent to our house in Melrose. I just want to make sure that you all know We aren't slick investors just trying to turn a profit over here. We're just neighbors who care about our neighborhoods and safety and the fabric of our neighborhoods, and income from these rental properties helped us to restore the buildings and to continue to maintain them. We keep them in really great, pristine condition, and we make sure all the ordinances are obeyed. I'm so sure that those people who sleep in my places are more scared of me than the police. We just don't put up with any business in our buildings, and we watch them really closely. Our own neighbors rent our buildings from us a good bit for their guests. And up until all this, I've been much more worried about protecting the safety of those guests than certainly I was worried about what our guests might be doing to my neighbors. There are every day, cars are broken into in sheds and people are breaking into houses. And so I warn those guests, make sure you lock your cars. Don't leave anything valuable in plain view. I was worried about the guests, not about my neighbors. We've had those places since about 2016. We've had hundreds of guests and never any problem at all. I'm confused about exactly how this tragic event last week, to me, it just seems like that is a crime and gun problem more than my short-term rental problem. I've never spoken up here before. I've only been here to celebrate great renovations and great things in our neighborhood, and that is what I care about. I want to offer my assistance as somebody who cares about our beautiful neighborhoods, who cares about safety. I just want to make sure as you grapple with this that maybe some of these owners could be involved in the process, because we also care and we want to be a part of this. And many of our rentals are not being disrespectful to our neighbors or blocking their driveways or leaving trash or making noise. They're just people like you heard described earlier, parents of these children, maybe nurses who are in town who just need a safe place to stay and aren't causing problems for any of our neighbors. So we, as the owners, need to make sure that we protect our own neighbors from whatever these people might be doing, but I think that we can be a part of the solution, and I hope you'll give us a chance. Thank you.
Kelsey Caskey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Rickaman, council members, and city staff, thank you for having me and allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Kelsey Caskey, and I'm here as a concerned community member, local business owner, and an advocate for thoughtful, data-driven policymaking. The death of Jaden Brackens is an unspeakable tragedy, and my heart goes out to his mother and his family, and also the neighbors who are a lot of my friends in Elmwood Park who feared for their safety that day. I bought my first home in the historic Cottontown neighborhood 7 years ago, and now have 2 Airbnbs there. I truly love the historic neighborhoods of Columbia. I'm really grateful for the call for the moratorium, truly because I do think we all share the same goal of safer neighborhoods and the sense of security in the place that we call home. As this conversation moves forward, my ask of you all today is just that you would call for a thorough empirical study that examines the relationship between short-term rentals and public safety, both here and in other cities. What policies have other cities enacted? What results have they seen? What worked, what didn't? And then consider any unintended consequences. Let's ensure that any decisions made are grounded in showing direct connection between short-term rentals and the violence we're all working to prevent. This doesn't have to be a decision for or against action, just simply to ensure that any step we take truly moves us closer to safety and solutions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Miss Debbie Scudell.
Hello. Hello. My name is Debbie Shadle.
There we go.
Shadle?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I am also on Park Street within the same block where the shooting occurred. I do want to let you all know I support the proposed moratorium on the licensing of any new short-term rentals while the city works towards a long-term solution. Additionally, as echoed by others, more enforcement is needed on current STRs immediately. As of now, our neighborhood had not seen any evidence that the city is actively tracking complaints or enforcing the existing point system outlined in the ordinance. But we know houses in the neighborhood should have points against them. Just with a short look on Airbnb, these are fun listings I found. 2 side-by-side listings claimed 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, space to sleep 16 guests each. That's 32 people right next to each other. Another one says, with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2 sofa beds, and room for up to 22 guests, it's perfect for families. I'm guessing that's yours. And the last one boasts 10 people in a 3-bedroom house with one of the bedrooms sleeping 4 people. You can actively find these listings on Airbnb, and I will send an email with links to them. And I do think that these should be enforced, and I echo the question why they're not. I moved from Old Shandon and bought a house in Elmwood Park because I was looking for a community that didn't unfortunately exist in Old Shandon because of how many rental units were next to me. I was one of 2 homeowners on my street, and I didn't know my neighbors, and it was a mess, and I do not want that to happen to our neighborhood. I found over 40 listings in our neighborhood doing a quick Airbnb search, and that number is growing. I'm concerned we're at risk of losing the fabric of Elmwood Park as well. Here are some brief recommendations I'd like for you to consider. Consider increasing the minimum stay requirement to help reduce a party culture and transient misuse. Enforce clear occupancy limits based on the number of legal bedrooms. That is one that is said in the ordinance but is not being followed. Clarify that violations of noise should be result in points against the property. Adjust parking regulation to limit guest parking to off-street parking only. Cap the percentage of short-term rentals allowed in our historic neighborhoods, and audit the current point system and report enforcement activity to neighborhood leaders regularly. We understand that short-term rentals aren't going away. I love them. I love traveling, and I always try to stay in one. But Columbia can make smarter, more community-minded approach. Thank you for your time, attention, and care addressing the issue. I'm confident that you'll work together to move forward in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Debbie, can you share those recommendations via email when you send them? Thank you.
All right, we have Steve on West Confederate.
Next.
Next, we have Kit Smith.
Excuse my slowness. My brain's faster than I am. I'm Kit Smith. I live on Watery Avenue in Wells Garden neighborhood. I had the privilege of working with John Wilkinson several years ago when we worked with you all into crafting the ordinance that you have today. We did not get what we needed or wanted at that time, and I can understand your lack of information and the experience we have, I hope, has changed that position. At that time, we asked that all the owners or property managers meet with the person who was going to check in. Then you wouldn't have an 18-year-old checking in with 20, 15-year-olds. You would know what was going on. And that was denied by the owners. They said it was too much trouble. We asked that, like every other city in South Carolina that has a short-term rental ordinance, either limits by the number or the location, one of the two. They had a referendum in Folly Beach. Mount Pleasant limits by percentage of homes. Charleston has a checkerboard pattern based on the neighborhood. And we were not against Airbnbs or short-term rentals, and I'm still not. I don't think John Wilkerson is. We realize they have a place. But you were also told at that time that they had a fabulous impact on the economy. If you read the study that was done by the professor at the university, he forgot one essential thing about economics. There's a concept called substitution dollars. And this professor took every dollar spent by somebody who stayed in an Airbnb and said, that's new money. Well, it's not. It's substitution money. If you're going to come to a football game, you're going to stay somewhere and you're going to spend money. It doesn't matter where you stay. And that percentage was never offered up. What we know from other data, and I know some of you really like data, that's why I got up, 2 to 4% are the only number that would not travel if they could not stay in an Airbnb. And I think it's closer to the 2 than the 4. So the economic impact is not that great. I agree that we need to welcome people in different modes. I think that's a good idea. But I think what you've heard here today is not everywhere, not anywhere should an Airbnb be located, particularly in the heart of a neighborhood. Several years ago, we had a murder at an Airbnb in Rosewood. It didn't make the paper because the industry, nationally and internationally, has a SWAT team that comes in and tries to smooth the waters. The shootout at Meadowfield Park started at an Airbnb in the county. I know these are isolated incidents. The industry itself, AirDNA, says only 1% of crimes occur in Airbnbs. So the question for me is not the number of crimes, it's the uncertainty that they create in a neighborhood. You don't know who's there. You don't want your children to play in the yard when there's a stranger next door. When I was growing up in a small town, we knew who the crazy people were. You can't know on a weekend you're going to get a crazy person. So it's the uncertainty they create, and the question is, where is the right place for them to locate? And I think you've heard loudly and clearly from the experience in Elmwood, not in the heart of our neighborhoods. One more quick point. Under state law, you have the option of grandfathering in those that exist. I'm not unreasonable. I don't think anybody in this room is unreasonable and wants to hurt somebody's pocketbook and put them out of business. But if we have 600 and the number's unsure, AirDNA says we have 600, I'm gonna be quick. That's 600 homes that could be affordable for families. And we need to figure out which ones need to go. Under the state law, you can grandfather them in, but you have 2 options. You can put a time limit on it, or you can develop a formula so they can recoup their economic interest. So don't leave them where they shouldn't be. You can grandfather them out and say, apply for a special exception to get back in, and that way we would be making decisions about where it's appropriate based on the neighborhood. Thanks so much.
Michael Lang.
Hey, good afternoon, Council. My name is Michael Lager. I live at 2915 Hope Avenue. I am encouraging y'all to please support a moratorium on these short-term rentals because they are bad for renters. I've been a renter here in Columbia for the last 5 years. In that time, my rent has increased by almost 100%. The presence of these short-term rentals drive up the cost of rent for folks in a local area. They push low-income people out of their homes, and they decrease the amount of workforce housing and affordable housing here for renters here in anywhere in America. These short-term rentals are often like poorly governed by local municipalities, by different neighborhood associations, not just here, but all over. There have been some really good comments from folks, and definitely from my personal experience, I've heard from other municipalities in South Carolina that have a significant amount of their properties, sometimes as much as 50%, are short-term rentals. I think it's really bad for our local communities. I think it's really bad for our neighborhoods. I also think it's important for our local governments, for unfortunately y'all, to really make a change. And so I applaud the efforts to do that, but just want to hopefully encourage y'all to move forward with it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but please support this moratorium. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with y'all. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Mayor, the remaining individuals that signed up to speak will speak at the end of the meeting.
Okay. So I want to take a couple minutes here. Number one, look, I'm pissed. I'm just going to be honest. I'm mad about these young people shooting each other. And that's the root of why I'm mad. It doesn't matter if it was an Airbnb or if it was on Main Street. It's just, this is not who we are, and we got to fix this. So I don't want to lose sight of that. But I do want to be very clear to everybody that what we are going to do tonight is not a knee-jerk reaction. We actually been having conversations with folks about it because we committed, if you remember, when we did the Airbnb, once we started getting data and we could see where the market was and see where things needed to change, that we would revisit that. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to spend the time to work. I anticipate tonight that we're going to vote to put a moratorium on new applications while we sort this out. And that means taking the time to go through, listening to where is the breakdown? How do we work with existing owners and how do we work with neighbors to make sure? Because there is some disconnect, because I've checked on some of the houses and there are cases on some of these houses. There's also owners that I've talked to who said, I'll be honest, I haven't called y'all like I should have. But it's important that we have that information because we want to make sure that if there is somebody operating a rental, I don't care if it's a short-term rental or a long-term rental, that's not abiding by the rules and they're doing things, we need to be able to have the ability to address it. We can't do it after the fact. We need to know when things happen. We also need to work with the ownership and figure out, all right, where are the breakdowns in the system? And I think we have the opportunity to do it. We've got a basis. It's not perfect. Nothing's been perfect. But STRs are important to communities. They're important all the way around as things hit. It's the balance, and that's what we've got to figure out. And for the record, there are only 446 registered things. So whatever happens, the ones who aren't registered are getting ready to have a complete nightmare in their life because they're not going to have an opportunity to apply for anything because they missed that opportunity because they've been operating illegally. And we plan to step on that. We're not going to let that continue to happen. But I do think it's important that we have this discussion as a group and that we do it together. And how do we find that balance? How do we work together to ensure, and if some of these rules aren't working, then let's look at it. And there's some bad actors out there, and we've got to address that. And we got to do that together. At the same time, there are a lot of good people who are doing great things. My friends over here in the Melrose neighborhood, not only have they restored multiple houses in that neighborhood, the Airbnbs that they have are actually in their backyard. And they do a great job. So do a lot of other operators. So let's don't take away from that. But I just want people to understand we are doing this moratorium on new because we've got to put things to a stop till we can address some of these gaps. And that's not impeding from anybody's business model. They're still allowed to operate, but we've got to get to the table. We need to get the folks who are at the table, John, Kit, David Bergman, all the folks that are out there. Let's really visit this and how do we create the balance? Because we got to have it across. I mean, we're also in a community, look, we want more home ownership. Look, there's only 46% of the houses. There are over 46,000 parcels in this city, only 46% home ownership across the board. We have a lot of people who don't want home ownership, they just want to rent. But we also got people that we got to create opportunities. We also have 2,100 empty lots across this city, and a lot of them have been empty for 2 decades. We're doing things to build more home ownership opportunities. We're taking the 53 lots that we own and we're putting affordable houses on, average cost less than $170,000. With what you heard earlier, our down payment assistance. We've met with multiple banks who are all working to help us provide that, get people those options, making sure we have workforce. But we're going to step back and we're going to look at it because this isn't just because of this incident. It's something we've been working with. Unfortunately, this incident has made us take this next step to put a halt so that we can be collective, that we can be smart, we can take the data and we work together in conjunction to make sure that we're providing the safety, we're the reporting system, but also working with folks who are really working together. And some of it's on us, some of it's on the community. It's a two-way street. It's not just all on the city. We got to work together. So with that, I want to make one amendment, or I'll ask Mr. Bailey to make an amendment to the moratorium on new applications. I want the new applications to reflect residential areas because we still want people to put stuff in commercial, right? And so I don't want to put it complete stop. So if we could make that amendment to make it residential, moratorium on all new applications in residential at this point, until we can work through it, I think that would be the right way to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with the amendment. Is it okay if we say a couple of words in response to public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank everyone for being here and start by saying I understand the feeling absolute violation of your space as an Earlwood resident and how that diminished safety can really make you spiral. It's traumatizing for a community. And I think that all of my colleagues on council have very much already reinforced that gun violence, especially amongst youth, continues to be an issue that we are working towards to the extent that we can. And we continue to ask you all to partner with us and think of innovative ways to instill hope in young people so that they don't rely on violence as an answer to deal with beef that, we would probably, when we were younger, just argue about, right? So I wanted to give you guys, I know a lot of you will have contacted us about the process and what this looks like. There's been a lot of conversations about what the different steps are. And I want to emphasize that what Councilman Bailey and the mayor have said is that there's going to be plenty of opportunities, and we want there to be opportunities for both our STR owners and our neighborhoods to provide feedback. The goal was always, when we passed the 2023 ordinance, to get a set of data points, because yes, I do love data, to be able to take a look at the number of STRs that actually exist. Where are the bad actors? Where are the good ones? Where is it the most concentrated? And I think on initial glance, I think it's actually Earlwood where they're the most concentrated. Is it a trend? Is it an outlier? These are the things that I wanted to have before we continue to refine the ordinance in the way that it makes sense for Columbia. So that's the step that we were always at. I think that we are now just accelerated our timeline a little bit because of the tragic events that occurred last week. And so council is working on taking a look at that data. And if there are things that you felt were not reported, I ask that you do now so that we have those data points as well. And then we'll kind of cross-reference and ensure that we have a fuller picture of maybe some of the areas that should have gotten points or some of the examples that you all have shared today. From that, we'll then move to recommending this to one of our committees. As you all know, we work in a committee structure where our council colleagues will then have another opportunity to discuss, refine, and shape the longer-term changes to the 2023 ordinance. So know that today it's a short-term kind of pause for us to take those steps where there'll be plenty of opportunities along the way for you all to provide input. And I hope that we end up with a ordinance that very much balances the needs of our historic neighborhoods, but also reminds us of the value of being able to offer these types of places for families and young people to come and stay and experience everything that Columbia has to offer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm on board with your proposed amendment to the ordinance number 2025-054, establishing a moratorium on the issuance of new permits in residential areas, the Columbia short-term rental ordinance. So if there's a second to that motion, I believe we could.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something prior to that. We've heard things that has happened in this city of ours. Young men, young people were wounded and killed. Bless you. And it's happening not only in our city, but in our nation. It has to stop. It has to stop. Guns and violence, whether it's Airbnbs or SCRs, it has to stop. My heart, of course, is heavy because somebody lost their life. And we're wrangling over. I support the amendment, Mr. Mayor, and support it, hopefully, prayerfully. We're going to come away out of this with a holistic, collaborative plan that not only cultivates the lives of people, teenagers and parents. This is not a young issue. This is a parental issue. And I think we need to face that reality. Houses are rented and given to children. My heart is heavy because we're going to have to attend a funeral. And we're going to have to look at and speak with those persons who were gravely wounded. I hear the concerns, and it's heavy. But let's be proactive and make something happen out of this. This council can't do it by itself. But with the help of others in the community, I think it becomes a reality that it can take place and change can take place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Only thing I'll add is it may make sense, Madam Clerk, to move item 41 to 33 so we can address both these issues. And then we could.
Can we do that? Yes, sir.
Do I need to repeat the amendment again, or we can put it to a vote?
He's going to withdraw. Do you agree? I think we're going to vote down the first, and he's going to make the motion for 41.
Okay, so yes, please, if you would, just restate your motion and then proceed with.
So the motion is to approve item number 32 with an amendment that the mayor just referenced regarding establishing a moratorium on the issuance of new permits in residential areas pursuant to Columbia short-term rental ordinance at Columbia Code Section 5-400 as amended.
Thank you.
And I'll second that motion.
Ready for the roll call? Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles? It's okay. Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles? All right, Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman? Thank you.
And so, point of clarification, Mr. Mayor and Council, ordinance number 2025-054 as amended and pending a second reading went into effect yesterday, June the 9th, 2025 at 3:27 p.m. So the effective date of that due to the pending ordinance doctrine, meaning it means that this ordinance is already in effect. Okay. And now are you saying you want to take up the referral now?
I think to move today's agenda along, it'll be efficient to move item 41 to 33 to take up the referral. And I guess we need to make a motion to amend the agenda to reflect that, then I'll make the referral. So my motion is to amend,
I don't think you're required to amend the agenda. We can just go ahead and take up item 41.
okay, great. So I have a referral to council to ask to refer the ordinance number 2025-054, establishing a moratorium on the issuance of new permits in areas zoned residential pursuant to Columbia's short-term rental ordinance at Columbia Section Code, or Code Section 5-400 as amended, and the development of any necessary legislation to community development. And I will say that this is not part of the referral, but I believe when community development gets together that we should consider all options in policy and with enforcement, given some of the complaints that members of the community have expressed today.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman? Thank you.
And I just want to add, as the chair of the Community Development Committee, if there are any recommendations such as yours, Dr. Bustles, send them to us so that we can use those as we develop our strategy going forward.
Okay. Ready to proceed, Mr. Mayor? Ordinance's second reading, item 33, ordinance number 2025-028, consenting to the inclusion of property in a multi-county industrial business park, Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union in
Motion to
Richland
approve.
County.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, Madam Clerk, please roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
And that item was endorsed by the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee on April 29, 2025. Resolutions, item 34, resolution number R 2020-25-020, annexing .05 acre off Bluff Road in Richland County.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert? Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
Item 35, resolution number 2025-034, providing funds to CEZ Inc. for the support of the station at Congaree Point.
Second.
A motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
Event resolutions, item 36, resolution number R 2025-014.
Ms. City Manager, could we take them all together? Thank you.
These are resolutions as outlined to include the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest on Saturday, June 21st, the Outfest South Carolina Pride on Saturday, June 14th, the Columbia Museum of Art for Arts and Draughts on Friday, June 20th, and the 9/11 Remembrance Foundation South Carolina 5K Run Walk on Friday, September 12th, my apologies, and finally, the ratification of the Desert Dreams Runway and Summer Party at Coble Plaza that occurred on Saturday, May 24th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman? Thank you.
Any other city council committee reports, referrals, or new business?
Council?
Thank you. Our additional public input session, Mr. Mayor and Council, again, individuals are allotted up to 3 minutes to address city council. Items requiring a public hearing cannot be addressed at this time.
All right. Again, we will remind the citizens that you have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Harrison Greenlaw.
Greetings, y'all. You know me more for my role with city neighborhoods, but I came to speak because I'd listened for weeks of very heartfelt feelings about conversion therapy. And I wanted to speak on that topic briefly. I have a science background, a counselor. I've been a counselor for 40 years. Master's degree in counseling and therapy, doctoral work, and as I said, 40 years working with students, including students whose parents had tried to convert them. Y'all are trying to decide what to do about that. And my thought is, despite we want to use the science and go with them, consider taking the money and doing something else. Because I do not want y'all to be blamed or the gay students or people to be blamed for, oh, I didn't get my funding because it was cut, even though it's a small amount of your budget. So my suggestion is take the money if you really need it and make a clear statement that we do so under duress and we're not following the science. And then I might make one other suggestion. There's another way to send a message to that senator from up in Spartanburg or our attorney general running for governor. Y'all are familiar with rainbow flags, rainbow colorings and so forth. Why not go down here to the State House and paint rainbow crosswalks around one of the intersections, maybe the one at Pendleton and Main Street, because that's where all those senators drive into their parking garages. We send a simple message. Some of them will probably think it's God's message of rainbows and we're not going to flood Columbia. But I think it sends a long-term commitment of support and not have your money taken from you, as my thoughts. So thank you.
Wade Fulmer. Thank you. Casey Emerson. Chris Clark. All right, we have individuals here to speak on behalf of the Columbia International Festival, starting with their director, Dr. Raj Aluri.
Honorable Mayor and the council members, I'm sorry I missed the 4 o'clock hour. I came late. I appreciate all of your support for the Columbia International Festival. Without the city and the counties, there would not be an international festival. We're a very vibrant, multicultural community. I think we have people from 200 nations live in the Midlands area. USC alone, Benedict, Columbia College, and a few other higher education institutions easily have more than 105 countries represented on the campuses. They have an economic impact of probably more than $100 million. And they make a lot of contributions. You know, foreign-born make a lot of contributions. And we know we all came from some other place in the world in the last 400 years. I'm a first-generation immigrant. Some of you have been second, third-generation immigrants. But this is an essential part of our society, our community. It's a signature event for Columbia to showcase how diverse we are. I know Los Angeles is not a good name to talk about it today, but Chicago, New York, vibrant multicultural communities. But Columbia is as diverse as any other community. So thank you for your continued support. I'm counting on you to give the full allocation. We have so many people come from outside this region to this event. Please mark your calendar 1 year in advance. April 18th, 2 p.m., Olympic-style flag ceremony. I'd like all of you to come there, okay? Please. It's a 1 year advance notice. And thank you again. I'm counting on you to support the full budget. Ask for $200,000. Please give it. Without you, we cannot do the festival. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I have more to say, but I want to stop here because I know it's been a long day already, okay?
Mayor. Dr. Raj, don't walk away so quick.
Yeah, he did his ask. He's gone now.
I just want to say a word of commendation for all of the hard work you do as it relates to the International Festival. There are international students there are internationals who are very excited about what's taking place in Colombia and in that quote-unquote ministry. Thank you so much for what you do, your time, your talents, your gifts, and your service. Thank you for making that festival a part of what Colombia is all about. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. It's a signature event for the city, and I've been a volunteer for 30 years. Next one would be the 31st year. Thank you so much.
William Sweeney.
As a retired lawyer, I'm going to say something that's typically considered a lie, but I'll be brief. Thank you. I've already talked too much. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for your care and faithfulness and all that you do to help us reach out to the people in this area. When I've heard the last two groups of people with the problems that exist here, this is such a different thing because everybody's coming together. Everybody is uniting, and the whole point of it all is to take people with different backgrounds, different personalities, different everything, different food, and bring them all together and celebrate those differences and celebrate them in an atmosphere of love and companionship. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Craigline.
Again, very briefly, thank you guys so much for your long-term support for the International Festival. You are doing something that is promoting something we all want, a chance for every person in our community, every neighbor really, to feel like a valuable part of our community. And we need more and more things like that. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to give this one a try. Dr. Patrick Nigul.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Patrick Ngula from East Africa, country called Tanzania. I'm here to say two things about Columbia International Festival. First, let me thank you for your generosity for supporting Columbia International Festival. And second, I think without Dr. Raj for the past 30 years, Columbia International Festival would not be here. What we have done for the past 30 years, we have created what I call it, entrepreneurs culture that the previous speaker just alluded here about food, personalities, and everything. So I encourage the counselors to continue to supporting Columbia International Festival. Lastly, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a professor at the University of South Carolina, Dalamo School of Business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up to speak.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session for receipt of legal advice relating to a pending, threatened, or potential claim pursuant to SC Code 3470A2. Emma Elizabeth Mueller individually and as personal representative of the estate of James Michael Mueller versus City of Columbia and Richland County, and also discussion of matters relating to the proposed location, expansion, or provision of services encouraging location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body pursuant SC Code 30-470A5, Project Catalyst.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert? Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Right there.